Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Full Time is presented by the Game Sports Podcast and powered by 91 Network. You're listening to Season 5, Episode 8 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their two locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, we welcome you back to Full Time, where we get to talk about the sport that connects us all. G, on this fine evening, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. A little sore from the kickoff of indoor season, but that's just how it is. How you doing tonight, Scarps?
I can't complain over here, sir, and I'm looking forward to today's show. In fact, and into today's show, we are going to be talking about some news in the world of football, Europe's Big Five, the Carabao Cup, and the MLS. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show started with some news in the world of football and specifically international football. We are, of course, talking about the England men's national team head coaching position this past summer at the European Championships after England lost in the final by a score of 2-1 against Spain. It was manager Gareth Southgate who stepped down from his position after 9 years in charge of the Three Lions. After the national team managerial position was vacant, it was Lee Carsley who stepped in, but only temporarily to take over as caretaker manager as the FA began its search for their next head coach. And now they have their man. It's Thomas Tuchel who has been appointed as England boss, and he will assume his responsibilities in January of 2025 as the World Cup qualifiers are just around the corner. Tuchel has an impressive resume, having managed the likes of Mainz, Dortmund, PSG, Chelsea, and most recently Bayern Munich, along with personal accolades such as several Coach of the Season and Manager of the Year awards under UEFA, FIFA, and various domestic leagues. He has won a Ligue 1 title, a Bundesliga title, a Champions League, a UEFA Super Cup, and a FIFA Club World Cup, along with other domestic trophies. Gitano, the appointment of Tuchel as England manager has caused many, and I do mean many, mixed opinions throughout the world of football, and specifically in England. It's a German manager coaching the England national team. So, Gitano, I've got to know, where do you stand on this one?
So before I get into my thoughts on it, I just want to touch on some of the criticism he's gotten, or like the decision has gotten, specifically from ex-players. So Gary Neville was kind of pretty vocally against it, who played an entire club career under a Scot. Half his England caps are under a Swede. And his only gig as a manager was as a foreign manager in another league. And then Jamie Carragher, again, was kind of outspoken against it, who played in his career under a Frenchman, an Irishman, a Spaniard, and a Scot domestically, and as under a Swede for England. So I think it's a little hypocritical for them to be, kind of bashing him for that, or bashing the FA for the decision. I think it's, in terms of available managers, he was definitely the best available. I think he's going to be great for them. I just don't think he's going to be as great as some people think. Like, I think some people think that England are now going to walk the World Cup because they've got Thomas Tuchel. I think he'll be fine. The issue I see coming up is that he is very similar to Pep Guardiola in that he's just so he wants to be so involved with the team and with the national team. Like, you don't have that day in, day out, almost 365 day a year access to these players. It's 2 weeks every 6-7 weeks international breaks are. And I'm not sure.
More stretch than that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I'm just not sure how much of his, not that his tactics stuff aren't going to stick, but not being able to train, day in, day out, seeing these players, every day, working with them. I'm not sure it's going to stick as much as it did at club level. And he was a great club manager. I'm not disrespecting him in any regard there, but I'm really curious to see how that kind of how his approach adapts to kind of not having the availability of these players all the time. but I think he'll be fine. Like they'll still qualify for the World Cup. They'll still make it out of the group, and they'll still probably push for at least a semifinal. I just don't think it's going to be as like some people on kind of the opposite spectrum of like the Neville and Carragher think like, oh, they're just going to be fantastic. They're going to be like Bayern Munich or like Chelsea were under him. Like I don't think it's going to be that crazy, but I don't think they're going to be bad either.
Yeah, you know what? I'm largely with you. I think the appointment is certainly a good one. I think it's a good one for England. I think they get an exceptional manager. I've always been a big fan of Thomas Tuchel. Um, I don't know how much international football is going to suit Thomas Tuchel. I know that there's been a lot of positive talk, as much negative talk as there's been, that he's good in cup competitions. And I think that he's proven that he gets very far in all of his cup competitions, so it seems. So I think to manage tournament football, I think he's going to be okay. But is it one of those appointments? Is it one of those things that sets, the team into a new stratosphere? I don't think so. Do I think he's going to be a better manager than Gareth Southgate? For sure. But I don't think that it's going to be absolutely amazing and that it guarantees that England win a World Cup or beyond that, a Euros. I think they're going to be incredibly competitive. I think that they're going to be there or there just about, but there's no guarantees in this. I will say too, being Canadian, we're managed by an American. I have no issue with that. England was previously managed by an Italian. I think was it Fabio Capello?
Fabio Capello, yes.
Yeah. So again, like, you know, I don't think that people could be too harsh of a critic. Like, I understand this sort of nationalist idea, if you will, and taking pride in your country, but this is somebody who clearly wants to help England. Like, am I not seeing it?
Yeah, no, and like that's like the weirdest thing for me is like you look at the available English managers, even like unavailable English managers, like there's no one near that level.
Right.
Like genuinely, Southgate is probably the best English manager in the game right now. Like I can't really off the top of my head think of anyone at his level. So yeah, like if you want to win a World Cup, you go and you get the best manager you can. Like that's just whether he's German or Swedish or Canadian, wherever he's from, like you go and get the best manager you can. Like, an English manager hasn't won the Premier League, right? Like, because again, like the English managers at kind of this level are not there. Like they're just, it's wild to like, yeah, to just like be so disrespectful to one of the best managers in the world just because he's German. And like, I think Southgate was a good coach. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think like the biggest upgrade that England's going to see like isn't maybe tactics like to start a match or even like during a match. I think having someone who knows how to like make a game-changing substitution, which we absolutely shit on Gareth Southgate for not doing the entire Euros a couple of months ago. I think that's where they're going to take their next step, is having a manager like in game is going to be a little more fluid, a little more dynamic. And again, like you look at English managers, like none of them are like that. They're very set in their way. This is how we're going to do it. Back in the day, it used to be, Brexit 4-4-2 football. Like that was English managers. That was it. That's all they had. And they haven't, grown and evolved to this level yet. So yeah, you need to go and get a manager who's at the level of your players, because England have a world-class squad. You need a world-class manager with them from whatever nation he's from.
Exactly. And, for the amount of complaining, and I would say in some capacity for good reason, that England fans complained about Gareth Southgate for several months on end. Now you got a manager who, in my opinion, is pretty much the total opposite. I also think that the one area that if I had to say that they're the same, I think they both handle themselves pretty good in press conferences and with the media. They're both well-spoken people. But if you want to talk about football, Gareth Southgate, was okay to sit very deep and just hit on counter attacks and play slow. Thomas Tuchel won't play like that. He'll play the complete opposite. The way Gareth Southgate manages, it's very calm and relaxed. Thomas Tuchel will be towing the line, of his technical area, and he'll be really involved in the game. So for what England fans wanted, they pretty much got now. But who would have fit the mold of a Thomas Tuchel that was English? Like the only other person that I was thinking about, like I know you said that Gareth Southgate, out of the English managers that were available, probably the best one. The only other one that ever popped into my mind was Graham Potter.
Yeah. This is a
This
genuine question. Like, where is he right now? Since he left Chelsea, I have no idea what he's done.
Well, I think from what I heard anyways, and I don't know how much truth there was to this, when he got sacked by Chelsea, he was still on contract with them.
Oh, so yeah.
Right. So I think he had to wait until his contract was done to go and, because that's guaranteed money, right? So I think that's what, but I don't know where he is right now.
Yeah. So I'm looking right now. He is currently, yes, unemployed, because why would you not do that and just collect a fat paycheck from Chelsea?
Exactly. It wouldn't make any sense, right? Like, unless if he needed the football desperately, which clearly he doesn't. But case in point being, what other English managers really are there available? I can't think of any off the top of my head other than him, So I like
Big Sam,
what's that? Big Sam. Oh,
Roy Hodgson, like that. That's what I mean. Like that's it. Like that's English managers.
right. And there's no, at least to my knowledge, anyways, I'm sure somebody can correct me. I don't know of any young and up and coming managers that are English that are available. Like someone who's like, I don't know, 34, 35 years old, who's, just gotten their pro coaching license and is ready to go. Like, I don't know anybody like that.
I mean, Wayne Rooney, but he is nowhere near level. Like,
Right. He's with it. Yeah, I think is he with Birmingham?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, here's the thing: if the FA came calling, he was going to manage England, but he's nowhere near that level. Like, just
No, he needs a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the appointment of Tuchel, and as someone who's not like, I don't support English football, I'm just excited to see the type of football that he plays, because I like him as a manager and all the clubs that he's managed at. Apart from Mainz, I've never really paid attention to the football that he played at Mainz. But every other club he's managed at, I love the way that he plays. So I think it's going to be really exciting. And maybe, do you think, Gitano, like, do you think England fans are going to turn a new leaf once maybe 2025 rolls around? Like, new year, new me, let's support the manager?
I think it's gonna be like really simple here, and it's if he wins things, they're gonna be really happy with him, and if he doesn't, they're gonna be pitchforks out. Okay, it's like very simplistic to say, but like, yeah, I think just given the circumstances, like if things go well, he's gonna be beloved in England, forever. He has a chance with this group to kind of etch his name in history. But if they don't win that World Cup or that Euros, like everyone's just, even if they play well and do fantastically and lose close finals, it's just going to be seen as a colossal failure, which it really isn't. But well, wouldn't be. I guess we're talking about the future. Wouldn't be. But yeah, I think just it's going to be kind of one extreme or the other. I don't see any kind of middle ground in this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And he basically, in my eyes, has two tournaments to do it. So at the World Cup, he has to like be really close at the end to give himself a chance for the Euros. And then if he doesn't win the Euros, I think people will be knocking on the FA's door saying you better change it now. But then by that time, who knows who could be available? It could be an Eddie Howe. It could be somebody else who a lot of English fans want or wanted, right? So time will tell. But Thomas Tuchel, manager of England, upcoming here in January of 2025 as the World Cup qualifiers will be getting going. So we'll keep a close eye on that once international football starts to ramp up. Let's now hop on over to take a brief look, Gitano, at Europe's Big Five, and we're going to get started in the Premier League. Liverpool, who are at the top of the table with 21 points. Manchester City is second with 20 points. Arsenal and Aston Villa trail the front two with just 17 points each. G, for you, how are things looking at the top of the table, sir?
Yeah, it's looking pretty much like we expected. I do have a big question for you, though, and I know we don't want to talk too much about the top of the table right now, but there's a kind of a headline floating around out of the UK that if Arsenal lose to Liverpool this weekend, then they're out of the title race. How do you feel about that?
I don't believe that. I really don't. It's too early because it hasn't even been 10 games yet. It hasn't been a third of the season. Haven't what do they say? Mathematically, you can't win the league before Christmas, right?
Yeah.
So until January rolls around, I don't really think I can have much of a discussion about that. I think Liverpool have had an amazing start to the season. I think that they're going to be there just about at the end. Manchester City, they're the only team in the league who haven't lost the game. And Arsenal, yeah, they've had a bit of a rough patch. But if you take a look at the way they're playing, I'm not really too upset by it. They're just making some really careless errors. But, I think the title race is going to be very much in the balance, at least until January, when we can definitely have another discussion.
Yeah, I thought it was a ridiculous headline. I just wanted to, just throw a feeler out there.
Yeah, that's my sort of feeling on it. I'm sure you do feel the same, eh?
Oh yeah, no, like that's October. Like the title is nowhere near decided.
Not yet. There's still lots to play for, and again, a couple of key injuries, right? So there's lots of things to happen, and who knows? I think Liverpool have only conceded like 3 goals. That sort of form is not
Yeah.
going to. They're going to concede goals at some point. So I think that this game could be telling for how Liverpool might progress. Like, let's say if Liverpool have an emphatic victory over Arsenal, which very much could happen, I think that could set their season, well forward, but I don't think that it dictates a title race in any capacity. So lots of football left to play, and we get back to it this weekend in the Premier League. And as we stay in the Premier League, we'll talk a little bit about the relegation zone. We still have Wolves, Southampton, and Crystal Palace there. And just outside the relegation zone is Ipswich Town. Gitano, all 4 of these teams have failed to register a win in their opening 8 games. Is it time yet for them to have calls for concern?
So I think outside of Wolves, yes. Wolves have actually played well. We talked about it last episode. The fact they've had one of the hardest starting schedules that added a game against Manchester City in between then and now, which they obviously didn't win, but they play well. They've just had bad luck with the schedule. And obviously, once they get some kind of lower table teams in those games, they'll start racking up points. But for Southampton, Palace, and Ipswich Town, I definitely think, specifically for Palace, like, you're going to start to worry here because they shouldn't be anywhere near the relegation zone. They should be comfortably mid-table. So I'd be really worried if I was a Palace fan right now.
I tend to agree with that. And then on the side of Wolves, for sure that things are going to be okay there because there's been zero, and I mean zero, talk of sacking the manager by like anybody.
Wait, the goal, the John Stones winner, because you're a referee, just your quick thoughts on it, because we actually haven't had this discussion like off camera.
The interference with the goal.
Yeah, the offside and interfering with the keeper.
I don't know. It starts from a set piece. Like, you know what I mean? It'd be, if it was an open play, okay, maybe different because you'd be questioning why someone would be there or things like this. But it's a set piece. Like, you put yourself in that situation to concede a corner in the 96th minute, give or take.
98th
minute. So, like, again, it's difficult, but that's football. Like, it is what it is. I didn't see a problem with it. I don't think it was cheating. I don't think it was the league trying to favor Manchester City. I just don't buy these things. And like, Arsenal fan through and through until the day I die, for sure. But do I think that the league is intentionally having a go at Arsenal to try and screw them? No. Like, the fact that Saliba got sent off last week, like, or the other week there, like, that's a red card. It just is what it is. Was there another call in the league? I can't remember which game it was. That was,
it was similar. The Chelsea game. It was the Chelsea game, and that absolutely should have been a red card as well.
Right. So, there was a debate there. But again, they're not like conversing with each other at the kickoffs like, oh, we just gave Saliba a red card. Okay, give so-and-so a yellow card. Like, I don't believe that that's the case. So just going back to your Manchester City comment, I don't particularly have a problem with the John Stones goal. Like, it kind of is what it is, because if I was a City fan and that ball hit the back of the net and it got ruled out, I'd be ticked.
Oh yeah. And I love when people say like, oh, like the league is corrupt for City. It's like, they've taken us to court. They're like currently in a court case against us. I don't see like why they would be like, oh yes, we're going to try and sue this team and charge them all these things, but we also want them to win everything. Like, right. Like that argument to me makes it makes zero sense. But yeah, I thought just there was a lot of discussion with that goal. I thought it was fine. I did think it was ridiculous when people were saying that oh, he was offside. It's like, it was a corner kick. You physically can't be offside from a corner. Like, that's, and then in terms of the actual interference, in quotations, with the keeper, I think, like, I've definitely seen a lot worse not get called. So I thought it was fine. And obviously it's a late winner. Of course, I'm never gonna say it's not gonna be a goal, but like, actually, like, with bias removed, I don't think it was nearly as bad as people think.
No, unfortunately, it's just context, right? It's like you said, 90 minute to win the game. Wolves have had a really strugglesome start to the season. It's all these things mount up where they say, and even and the name is escaping me right now. The Wolves manager, English fella.
Is it Gary O'Neill?
I think so. I think that's right. He even came out after and he's like, do I think it's rigged? No. He goes, naturally, like, if you're a good team, like, you're going to have calls go your way, like 50-50s, just because, like, that's what happens. But yeah, no, even he said, like, no, it's not something that's biased. Like, do we feel a bit hard by? I guess a little bit, but sure, you're always going to feel hard done by when you lose in the 98th minute.
Exactly. And I think they have every right to be, upset and wanting that goal overturned because they obviously desperately want a point, whether it's against City or not. Like they need to start picking up points. So, like I get their frustrations from that. But yeah, I thought it was a fine goal, and kind of the chaos that came from it was a little like just like over the top.
Yeah, a little bit, and everyone loves the storyline, right? So
Oh,
something happened,
exactly.
right? Let's shift gears to Italy Serie A. Napoli lead out there with 19 points. Inter is second with 17 points. Juventus is third with 16 points, and Milan is fourth with 14 points. Gitano, is Serie A starting to take some shape here?
A little bit at the top of the table. Napoli are starting to pull away with Inter and Juve shortly behind them. But even still, from fourth to 11th is there's a 4 point difference. Like that's just insane. We've talked about it a lot, but like this league for the last couple of years has just been the best in Europe in terms of competitiveness. But yeah, it looks like we're kind of starting to see a little more of a clear picture for the title race.
Yes, and again, we can't really make any clear determinations until January rolls around. But I also think that things are just starting to form little by little. Things also tick along in Spain's La Liga. It is slowly starting to become a much more clear picture. Barcelona is atop the division with 27 points. Real Madrid is second with 24 points. Atletico Madrid is third with 20 points. Villarreal is fourth with 18 points. Gitano, we can't make any official calls here, but might we anticipate that this could become a two-horse race in the upcoming months based on how things are trending?
Yeah, so I mean, so Real Madrid are just going to Real Madrid. They're always going to be in there. But for Atletico, they've kind of dropped off a little bit. 3 draws in their last 5 games, just kind of cooling down a bit from the hot start they had. And then kind of the opposite of that. We've been saying that we're waiting for Barca to kind of stumble a little bit under Hansi Flick, but they just kind of keep rolling domestically and in Europe as well. I know we're not touching Champions League this week, but like a phenomenal game against Bayern Munich
Fun, right?
the other day. 4-1. Which again, like given the like kind of the recent history between those two teams, is a huge result for them. But yeah, they look really, really good. And like we keep kind of waiting for the wheels to fall off, but like the kind of as the weeks tick by, like the wheels are solidly on there. So I'm expecting, a really, really good title race. I don't want to call it a classic, but having Bayern Madrid battle for the title kind of it feels right. It feels like, I miss kind of the Messi Ronaldo days of battling. It's not going to be quite that, but it does just kind of, the nostalgia hits.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I can see it being a two-horse race. I do hope, though, Atletico Madrid stay in the race because I think that would be good for, a third horse in the race, we'll call it. The Bundesliga out in Germany is making for some pretty good entertainment in the early parts of the season. Bayern Munich and RB Leipzig are joint top with 17 points. Freiburg sit behind them with 15 points. Leverkusen and Berlin trail with 14 points each. Gitano, as you continue to look further down the table in the Bundesliga, and you just kind of referred to this in Italy Serie A with spots 4 to 11, you realize in the Bundesliga just how tight everything really is. Are we set for another memorable season in Germany's top flight, but maybe for a little bit of a different reason?
Yeah, I think so. You look at kind of, the top 6, top 8, like it's still super close. We haven't seen any massive blowouts. RB Leipzig have only conceded 2 goals so far domestically, which that is insane, by the way. Like, so Chelsea's record, I don't know all of the records for all the top flight leagues, but Chelsea's record is 15 goals conceded in a season, which is stupid.
Yeah.
But like if RB Leipzig are able to kind of keep this form up, like they have a chance of like kind of getting near that number, which is like insane because there's no way you don't win a title only conceding like 15, 16 goals over the course of the season. They've looked so good so far. Vinny Company's Bayern Munich domestically have looked great. Obviously got humbled in Europe as we were just talking about, but domestically are keeping it up. Freiburg are, we've kind of been waiting for them to fall off a little bit, but they keep rolling. Like it's phenomenal the depth in the Bundesliga this year.
It really is, and I hope that continues. And like you said, to your point about Leipzig with the goals against, Liverpool's kind of doing it right now in the Premier League. If you continue that form, there's just no way that you don't win a title. So let's see what happens there. But I do love the fact that so many contenders are there in the Bundesliga. And in France's Ligue 1, we've got PSG and Monaco, who remain joint top with 20 points each. Marseille is behind them with 17 points. Lille, Lens, and Reims all hold 14 points each. Gitano, in a very similar way, France's Ligue 1 seems quite competitive as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not quite what we're used to the last, decade, give or take a couple of odd seasons. Like, yeah, but to have Monaco and PSG tied right now, PSG actually have a huge game upcoming this weekend against third place Marseille, which could see Marseille draw level on points. Um, yeah, I think it's nice to see some balance back in Liga, considering kind of how lopsided it's been for the last 10, 15 years. And some of these teams in France kind of on a bit of a rebound because they've not been just as a whole not been great domestically or in Europe for the last few years. So it's kind of a nice rebound to see from Liga.
It is for sure, and I'll take that sort of refreshing sort of pill, if you like, all day long because Liga could definitely use it. So it's nice to see in these early stages of the season. So as Europe's Big Five ticks along, now that international break is good and well over, we'll continue to keep up with it right here on Full Time. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. A cup competition that is on the horizon that we haven't yet talked about this season is the Carabao Cup. Gee, it's down to the last 16 teams in the competition, and both of our teams are still in contention for the trophy. Are we set for some good games here to take place in the round of 16?
Yeah, there's actually some like not I don't want to call them like surprisingly good games, but just kind of the way the fixtures laid out. There's some actual like box office games coming up, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, you and me both, and more specifically, obviously, you're very excited for the Manchester City game, and I'm very excited for the Arsenal game. And one of the best things that we talk about here on Full Time that we get to do is make predictions and kind of go head to head on those, and that's exactly what we are going to do now. We are going to predict the round of 16 and the teams that we believe will move on to the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. So let's first get started, Gitano, with Southampton and Stoke City. This should be a feisty matchup, but who will advance?
Yeah, like gut feeling says Stoke. There's just something about them. I don't think Southampton are. No, I don't want to say they're not good this year, but I think they're just having a rough year. Kind of being lower table in the Prem, not being that quality. I think they're just, they're going to be looking to stay up in the Prem. I don't think they're going to focus on a cup competition. So I think they're going to fail maybe a weaker team, and I think Stoke's going to take them for it.
Okay, so I actually have almost complete opposite thinking to you. I think because they need to get their season rolling in the Premier League, I think that they're going to use this cup competition as something that gives them motivation. So you'll take Stoke, I'll take Southampton. I think it's going to be a complete toss up though, and I think it's actually going to be, like I said, a very feisty game. Next is Brentford against Sheffield Wednesday. Gitano, does Sheffield Wednesday pull off an upset here?
I don't think so. Brentford have like a surprising amount of depth. It's maybe not like world class, but it's kind of all at the same level, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think that even if they have some squad rotation, they'll still roll over this the Sheffield Wednesday team.
Yep, and I'm on board with you. And Thomas Frank, the manager, just came out this week and he said, "I'm at one of the best clubs in the world. Why would I ever want to leave?" So it's definitely a vote of confidence for him and confidence for the players and confidence for the entire club. So I also say that Brentford will win this game with relative ease. A matchup that most will be looking forward to is between Brighton and Liverpool. Gee, is this one, as we know, it's very much set to excite. But who for you is going to win it?
I don't want to say Liverpool because I just really don't want to. And like Brighton are a very good team. I'm really interested to see how Liverpool's manager kind of approaches this first domestic cup competition match they're going to have. So I'm really looking forward to see like is he going to kind of go all in on it? Is he going to play all the kids? Is he going to kind of try and mix? I'm not 100% sure, but just because I don't like them, I'm going to go with Brighton.
Fair enough. And I really tussled with this one. I had a difficult time deciding, but in the end, I have gone for Liverpool. But if Brighton do win, I will say that I'm not going to be surprised because they have had a very good start to their season and they look a very good outfit. Preston takes on Arsenal in the Carabao Cup round of 16. G, your thoughts here for what will happen?
Arsenal's like U16s could probably win this game and should probably win this game. So I'm sure whatever side Mikel Arteta fields will get the job done.
Yeah, it's again, you can't take anything for granted in football, but if you had to put all your paychecks on it, you'd say Arsenal, and I'm also going to say Arsenal there for more than one reason. Manchester United will go up against Leicester City. Gitano, what do you foresee happening?
like, not even just for the memes. I genuinely think Leicester City is going to win this game. United they're just bad, Scarps. Like, they're just awful. The only sliver of me wanting United to win this game is if it comes to like they might sack Ten Hag. Because if this game costs Ten Hag his job, I hope they win. But if Ineos is going to stick with them, then yeah, I genuinely think Leicester City is going to win this game. United just drew 1-1 in Turkey against, is it Fenerbahce that Jose's managing, or is it yeah, like they just like drew 1-1 with them. He played Mazraoui in the 10. Like genuinely, like he genuinely played like, it's just I don't get it. There's just so many things wrong with that club and everyone involved with it. I genuinely think Leicester is going to win this game. Jamie Vardy to score a hat trick.
Dude. Yeah, I'm also not doing this for the memes. I have to go for Leicester here just because I think there has to be a tipping point. I know it's still early in the season, but there has to be something that tips it over the edge for Manchester United. And I just think that this is going to be the one. Like, Leicester City, a club that's going to be expecting to fight relegation this season. I know it's not league play, but they're going to go up against them in this game, and I just feel like Leicester City are going to win. I really, really do. And
I believe the game's at Old Trafford too. So like that, it's the perfect storm for it to all go to shit.
Yeah, because you know what, the fans will they will voice their opinions. You do got to give them that. So you're going to go Leicester. I'm going to go Leicester, and let's hope for it, I guess. Another match that is going to entertain the masses, or at least it should, is Newcastle and Chelsea. G, give us your analysis here.
This, I think, is going to be one of the best games of the round. Both teams are going to want to win this trophy. Not that they're not in the title race or not going to be able to win the FA Cup, but like this is a very winnable trophy for both these teams. So I think they're both going to go for it. And I just have a sinking suspicion about Newcastle. I think they are going to get it done. The game's at St. James Park, so I think that atmosphere is going to kind of give them that little boost they need. And yeah, I think it's going to be close, but Newcastle will win.
Count me in on that. I'm going Newcastle as well. I have a good feeling for that one. Newcastle have had I'm going to say a pretty decent start to the season, and I think that this competition is going to be theirs to really push and propel their season forward. So I am also going Newcastle. I expect that Chelsea's going to rotate their squad a little bit, and I think that Newcastle is going to be a little bit more consistent. I think as well Newcastle gets it done. Aston Villa and Crystal Palace will battle it out in the round of 16. Gee, I know we're not talking Champions League, but Aston Villa, wow, they look fantastic in the competition. But this is a completely separate competition. Who's going to move on to the quarterfinal out of these two?
So I think Villa are going to probably heavily rotate, considering they have a legitimate shot at, going somewhat deep in the Champions League. They're expected to kind of be in maybe not the title race, but at least challenge for a Champions League spot domestically. So I expect some rotation from them. So I don't know if they're going to get this job done. I think Crystal Palace might just have a little bit more in them, just in terms of they're probably going to play something closer to their strongest 11 than Villa will. So I'm just going to lean to Palace on this one.
Yeah, and you know what? We started this sort of segment disagreeing, and now we continue to agree. I also have to say Crystal Palace for the same reason that I said Southampton. I think that Crystal Palace just needs something to kind of kickstart, their season, even though they're already 8 games in. They haven't, gotten a result yet. So I think that they need something, and I feel like this game very well could be it, even though that Villa will probably play a rotated side. I think that it could be good for Crystal Palace to say, hey, we got to win against Villa. Let's kick on from this. So you'll say Palace. I will also say Palace. And finally, it is Tottenham up against your Manchester City. Gitano, what happens in this match?
So Tottenham Hotspur Stadium isn't totally voodoo for City anymore. We've scored there. We've gotten results there. So I'm considerably less stressed about this than I would have been, a year ago. It's still a tough place to go. Don't get me wrong. And Tottenham are playing pretty decent football. But I expect City to get the job done. Bias or no bias, I think they should win this game. Even with some rotation, they should. I don't want to call it comfortably, but they definitely should win.
Yeah. And I actually, to be perfectly honest, not to make any jokes for the show, I actually did, tussle with this one as well. But in the end, I did come to the conclusion that Manchester City will win it over Tottenham. And I just feel as though even with maybe a slightly rotated side, Manchester City is the better of the two. And I think that they will win this. And, Manchester City have always really liked this competition. So I think that they will certainly go for it. So, Gitano, you've got Stoke, Brentford, Brighton, Arsenal, Leicester, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, and Manchester City. I've got Southampton, Brentford, Liverpool, Arsenal, Leicester City, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, and Manchester City as well. So very excited for these upcoming games. And these games are going to take place this upcoming week, October 29th and October 30th in the Carabao Cup. And then not next show, but the a couple shows after that, we'll be able to highlight the winners and looking forward to the quarterfinal. From one competition involving knockout football to another, it's the MLS playoffs that are set and ready to go. Gitano, league play wrapped up in the MLS, and we're going to first take a look at the Eastern Conference. It's Inter Miami who finished first, Columbus second, third is Cincinnati, fourth is Orlando City, fifth is Charlotte, sixth is New York City, seventh is the New York Red Bulls, eighth is Montreal, and in ninth is Atlanta United. G, your thoughts on the East as it's all finished up there and we get ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, for the most part, it looks pretty much kind of what we were expecting. Obviously, Inter Miami, led by Messi and friends, ran the Eastern Conference, 74 points, which I believe is an MLS record.
It is.
Yeah. Well, so I only know I was almost for sure because 2019 TFC's record was 69 points. So I knew 74 was definitely like, if someone hadn't already beat TFC's record, it definitely was. But yeah, just kind of what we expected there. And in terms of kind of the bottom half of the playoff teams, shocked to see New York City kind of so low, considering kind of how good they've been in the last couple of years. Expect them a little higher up on the table, but definitely still fine to qualify for the playoffs. And unfortunately, CF Montreal did qualify for the playoffs, but that's life.
That is life. And in the West, it's LAFC who finished first. LA Galaxy, they finished second. Real Salt Lake end up in third. Fourth is Seattle. In fifth is Houston. Sixth is Minnesota. In seventh is Colorado. Eighth is Vancouver. And in ninth is Portland. G, your thoughts on the West as we enter into the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, the West was a lot more, I think, set in stone going into decision day than the East. So not a lot of changes there. Obviously, the LA clubs, up top, considering the money they've spent and the players they have, they obviously should be there. And I don't actually hate the Whitecaps as a Canadian team. They're just kind of meh to me. So it is nice to see them there. But did you hear what is going on with their first playoff game situation?
I did not.
So they are the home team, but there's I don't know what else is scheduled at BC Place Stadium that conflicts with what would have been that game. So even though they are technically the higher seed, they're playing their game away from home, which is such a slap in the face to those fans. Like, that is brutal to do to them.
It's not like they could just go to another stadium.
No, but it's like that's just so, like, I would be furious if I was a Whitecaps like season ticket holder. And you qualify for the playoffs and you don't get that home game. And even for the players, like, that's a huge boost for them to be playing in their home stadium and to not get that. Really, really just poor from Whitecaps and from MLS for not finding kind of a better solution than just not getting that home game.
Exactly. And whoever's in charge of the booking at, is it BC Place?
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever's in charge of that, they need to reconsider because you can't be making double bookings. This isn't the NC.
God, no.
So, Gitano, as we do get ready to start watching the MLS playoffs here, who are your early favorites? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer because I'm pretty sure I have the same answer. So does 90% of the world. Who are your favorites for the MLS playoffs?
Yeah, like Inter Miami should be there. Like, let's just be real, they should be. But out of the East, Columbus Crew, Tim Bezbatchenko is one of the best GMs in the league, and he's built a great squad yet again. So I expect them to kind of be in and around that ballpark. And then moving out west, I think one of the LA teams, I lean towards Galaxy. Not for any specific reason, just kind of gut feeling. And as much as I hate to say it, because I despise the club with every fiber of my being, Seattle's always in that kind of picture. They always end up there. So I do expect that to be kind of your final four, if you will.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty reputable final four. And ultimately, I am going to say Inter Miami as well. I feel a little bit a fool if I didn't. But the rest of the playoffs, I'm interested to see what happens. I'm also interested to see what happens with the two New York teams as well, see if they make any noise, despite the fact that maybe they didn't finish up as high as they would have liked. But I'm very much looking forward to that, despite the fact that I think Inter Miami should be winning this. Not comfortably, but they should certainly be winning it. A reminder to our listeners that the MLS playoffs are currently underway and the MLS Cup final will take place on Saturday, December 7th. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to Full Time on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. You can download and access the Pizza Portal app for any of the 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Have a delicious hot ready pizza from Little Caesars today. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we round out today's show, we want to send our greatest thanks to each of you tuning in. You are the heartbeat of our program. G, as always, this has been a great deal of fun, my friend.
Always, Scarps. Wishing you luck with the big game this weekend. It should be entertaining as a neutral, but I can't imagine it being very fun walk for you. So I do wish you luck for that.
That's very kind of you, sir. And who do you guys have at the weekend?
We have Southampton's, but knowing City, it's not going to be as easy as it should be.
Looking at a nervy 2-0. Regardless, I do appreciate the well wishes and looking forward to watching the football this weekend. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of November 4th, 2024. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the Champions League, and the MLS. As always, we'll keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of both the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Podbean. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning into Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Game Sports Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.